ability to talk things out with your spouse? Have you ever thought, I can communicate with everyone in my life except my husband? Have you considered your problem might be the difference between the way men and women communicate? Much of these differences are physical, and we are as God wants us to be. I've read a number of studies on the subject of how men and women communicate differently, and they all have similar findings. I would like to focus on Dr. Lund's book, For All Eternity. He has studied and counsels on this subject for years. I want to focus on the differences in the communication styles of men and women. Communication is a vital part of our relationship. We often think that we are great communicators, and it is our spouse that has a problem communicating. Dr. Lund said, communication is exchange of understanding. It is an eternal truth that all frustration comes from unmet expectations. There is no such thing as someone who is frustrated who did not have an expectation that was not met. Communications differences are in part because of the way men and women's brains develop. The corpus callosum in our brain connects the left and right sides of our brain. Dr. Lund has studied Dr. Rima Gur of the University of Pennsylvania's research on the brain. Dr. Gur has spent many years studying the brain, and he reports that it is basically a pathway in the woods in the male brain as it relates to the transmission of information between the left and right sides of the brain. The female brain is a 4-lane freeway. Here's a female brain, and here's the male brain. The connections go this way. The female brain is 11% smaller on average than the male brain, but is more efficient in many ways. Women are constantly integrating information. Even at night, only 10% of the woman's brain goes to sleep. 90% is sending messages back and forth and integrating that information. Contrast that with the male brain, of which 70% goes to sleep at night. Women internalize and take personally information, and men normally do not. A husband might make a comment such as, Jessica, a daughter-in-law, does a really good job of keeping their house clean. His wife will think that he is comparing Jessica to her and will feel like he is criticizing the way she keeps house. This was not his intent at all, and he was not making any comment about his wife. A woman may say something similar to her husband, such as, Andy, who is their neighbor, keeps his yard looking immaculate. She really does want her husband to internalize it, and he will not even realize that at all and just agree with her. Men compartmentalize information in their brain as opposed to a woman's brain, which is more integrated. Men have a separate box for information and a box for feelings, and they typically focus on the present. This explains why a man can close the door on something and move on, and a woman may rehash an incident for days. A husband and wife might have an argument. They get past their argument and apologize to each other. The husband will think the situation is over. He will shut the door on it and won't think about it again. His wife will go over and over in her mind what has happened and be just as hurt several days later as she was when it happened. Men are monothinkers. This means they do one thing at a time. They are wonderful at focusing on a problem and solving it. They can then move on to the next one. Women, because of all the connections in their brain, seemingly can talk and listen all at the same time. Women are good at running households and relationships and being communicators, and they typically need more discussion. Another way that men and women are different that often causes friction is the fact that women are interdependent and men are dependent. Men do not like to be told what to do, and they can be typically defensive. A woman, on the other hand, loves to get the opinion of others and weighs all her options before she decides what action to take. Both men and women could benefit from each other's communication styles. It's a summary. Because our brains are different, it does not mean that we cannot improve our listening skills or learn to forgive and not hurt each other and get hurt over and over. An understanding of how our spouse's brain works can help us find ways to have better understanding without so much frustration.